Well, here you freaks, punks, and blah 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 blah. How you doing, glue huffers? It is I, your pal J.Ishiro Finney, author and alien in a human suit, and I'm here to tell you it's been one of those fucking days or one of those fucking nights. To quote the great Beavis of Beavis and Butthead, I've been having bad dreams and pooping a lot. And to that end, I'm not functional right now. Not in the least. Um, I'm having trouble sleeping. We all know that me and sleep are not friends. We do not get along. But I was getting a handle on it, going to bed on time, doing my writing. Things are starting to look up, getting very productive. And motherfucker, if not 3 hours into sleep last night, goddamn night terror. That's right. I had a goddamn motherfucking night terror. Uh, I don't really remember what it was. I just know that it was one of those wake up screaming things. Well, cat actually had to wake me up, but I was making a lot of noise apparently. And that was around 1:30 in the morning. So just what I needed. And it's a real night terror when you're having all the after effects of an adrenaline rush. You come out of it, you're thoroughly dehydrated, your heart's pounding, you're craving salt because you're dehydrated. Yeah, it was one of those days or one of those nights. And didn't matter that I was really fucking tired. I mean, real tired. The kind of tired it hurts tired. Um, I could not get back to sleep. I think I finally fell asleep around, I don't know, 6:30 this morning, maybe 7. So yeah, I'm not entirely functional. I went outside to try and write because I have an outside office, and nope, nope, not happening, not happening. I'd have more luck with glue huffing right now. So maybe that's the best option at this point. I don't know. How are you? All 8 of you listening right now. Oh wait, so we've got Cesario, William Sova, Bromando, the Dread Pirate, and something extraordinaire. And Humble Marty. How was your Friday? Don't know if we're gonna have a ladies' night tonight or not. I think we are, but I don't know for sure. But yeah. So what's been going on? I keep saying progress on the book is good, and I repeatedly say the progress on the book is good. It's gonna be a long book. It's gonna be a very long book, everyone. It'll be worth your money. But off graveyard shift for you. Well, excellent. Although, be honest with you, back in college, I kind of much preferred the graveyard shift. I worked at a Kinko's and meant I didn't have to deal with anybody. Like it was just empty. So it was pretty much, just stand there, play on the computers, shit like that. Um, but I'd even the writing. I think the thing that did it is I've gotten pretty much all but one chapter done as far as the culture war shit for Boobs of Steel. For those of you not aware, all 12 of you, any of you who don't know, for the last year and a half, I've been writing a book called Boobs of Steel, which is about busty warrior archetypes and the culture war. Yes, I'm not kidding. And I got the book done, I thought. But then I realized, yeah, okay, I covered the culture war. I did a good job. I didn't cover anything else. And I realized without context, it just didn't really fucking work. But so all these chapters that I had half written and then decided, you know what, I'm just going to go to the bare minimum, get this out as fast as I can. I said, no, shit. I have to do them. And I've been working on those ever since. And to be honest with you, writing about the process of writing and archetypes and history of things such as the Amazon and the evolution of all the various warrior woman busty archetypes, that's been a lot of fun. I've really enjoyed it. But yesterday, yeah, well, I got into a section that again got into the culture war. And let me tell you, that is soul devouring. Well, that's how I would describe it. Oh, hey, Millie, how you doing? Not only that, I don't know. I found a process to help prevent burnout for the most part. For about a year and a half, it's been just power through the book, just nose to the grindstone, just work till burnout. And again, that's really exhausting. And so I've kind of hit this point where I will, write for 2, 3 hours till I hit that burnout point, and I just can't do it anymore. And so I'll wind up this egg timer and just set it between 35 minutes to an hour, and just free write whatever the fuck comes out of my mind. And that has been very, very useful. I had a story in mind a while back when I heard that. Oh, wait a minute. What happened? Do you see something tells me two things just chilling made you mad? Like Ezra Miller not. You know what? Yeah, why hasn't Ezra Miller been tossed off a cliff? Really, seriously. I, if Hollywood were to just kind of fall into the ocean, would anybody really miss it? I mean, seriously. I mean, let's see. Like shows like Archer are made in Atlanta, so we'd still get Archer, and it's not like Disney or is producing anything good right now. So yeah, what if the whole Disney Corporation just fell into the ocean? The whole Weinstein Epstein brigade of Hollywood just poof. No more greasy producers, no more pedos, no more shitty preachy movies that shit on Star Wars and superheroes. Just entertainment. Oh, hey, well, Anime Acid Trip. It is your favorite Coochie Slayer, Rico Flores here. Time to tune into the Ishii cast and chat up my chumbas about nothing. By the way, testing for sleep apnea is a bitch. Fucking machine battery died on me. I don't have sleep apnea, fortunately. Actually, it's not. You're too slim to have sleep apnea. I've seen pictures of you, dude. How do you have sleep apnea? It's like me. I'm too slim to have sleep apnea. I thought only fat people have that, right? No, I have night terrors. That's when my sleep's sucking ass. Um, but by the way, Rico Flores, has it ever occurred to you that two of the characters in Starship Troopers were Johnny Rico and Dizzy Flores? Is this a coincidence? Just asking. Let's see. So, well, hey, for any of you who missed out on the recent ones, the one I would say is I would all go back and listen to the show where I think it was DeGrasse Tyson Doesn't Know Fuck All. Originally the title was going to be Neil deGrasse Tyson is a fucking retard or a fucktard, but I realized I might have gotten it banned. So Neil deGrasse Tyson Doesn't Know Fuck All. That was the one. That is the one worth hearing. But we live in the dark times where Kanye has been unpersoned by social media and banks, and Ezra Miller is still free to roam the earth until the reckoning. The culture war was designed to devour your soul and enslave you. Too bad for them that you're made of tough stuff. Your soul is intact and you are not for sale. They can't stand that. Priceless. Why thank you, Fair Maiden White. And may I have you know that in the current thing I'm working on, I'll get to this. I've named a character after you. I'll get back to this current thing, but I don't know if you caught the earlier bit, but I've been making like killer progress on the book. I keep saying it, but yes, it is really, really almost done, guys. I should just get off my ass and send you the last 3 chapters that I wrote because they're done and ready to be edited, Fair Maiden. I don't know why. It's always like I think, well, I'll just write one more before I send them out. I'll just write one more, and I don't know, or I'll complete one more is more like it. But yeah, all but one chapter of the Culture War section is done. I don't need to do anything else. I've been writing all the stuff about the history of the archetypes and what these archetypes are and why they're important. Actually, the first half of the book's going to be extremely useful for anyone who's a storyteller. Movies, video games, novels, comics, it doesn't matter. It is going to be useful. But oh God, I'm brain dead. And I'm trying to keep track of. Well, I just saw Black Adam with my older brother. It wasn't bad, just fun. Yeah, I heard they made him a good guy though. Isn't that Sony? Not Sony. Yeah, that's Warner Brothers. Doc said I got a big dog. Oh, that's interesting, and that's causing sleep apnea. Plus, Mom said I snore pretty badly, so I'm fucked 6 ways till Sunday if I get tested and goes green. Yeah, also didn't know. What is she? Love Starship Troopers. Yeah, it's I don't know. I was like, this is just kind of a weird coincidence. But oh, I forget. Are you Argentinian or Britain? You're not Brazilian, are you? Because I mean, I think both are Brazilian last names. Anyway. Hey, Ishi, about the animation thing I'm going to work on soon. Should I create a highlights channel on it? Sure. Go ahead. I've been watching your channel. I said we should bring you on a ladies' night or bring you on a show sometime, and you said you didn't know what you'd say, but I've been enjoying your little commentary streams. I know they're brief. Yeah, for those of you who don't know, Aloise has started a channel. I'm sorry, I don't remember drop the link in the description. I think I've given you a wrench. But yeah, the one you did about, what was it? The new Game of Thrones series, and then it explodes and Michael Jackson jumps out. That was hilarious. I'm talking about a video she made. But yeah, I've been doing this process where I'll write till I burn out. And it's been saving my sanity. As I said, I'll set the egg timer for like 30 minutes to an hour and just free write. And I had a story I was going to submit to the BattleTech magazine, Shrapnel, because they're hungry for content and they're paying. Then they got woke, and it's like, screw that. So in this free writing, I've been writing this. Whatever comes to mind, I write out, but I have a loose plot. And it's about a group of mercenaries who drive battle mechs, essentially. Although in battle mech, they're 50 feet tall, and my battle mechs are no larger than 19 feet tall. And trust me, if you know anything about urban combat, that makes a really big difference. Oh, God. But anyway, yeah, I've been writing this story on my downtime between writing sessions to just unwind, and lots of insane randomness. It's going to be a strange story. I think I read a little bit of it on the air. Let's just say it features the line, "Hold my beer, I gotta go drop a Duke Nukem, I'll be right back." It's that kind of story. Can't take credit for that line. Kat actually said that one. And that's the kind of woman I'm married to. She sees me walking off to the bathroom because, again, as I said earlier, in the words of the great Beavis, I am having bad dreams and pooping a lot for some reason. Heading off to the bathroom, and she said, gotta go drop a Duke Nukem, huh? I was impressed. That's a good wordplay. Speaking of Duke Nukem, JC, I want to, we looked in the, Jesus, brain is not working. I looked into our Subscribe Star, and we do have the money. I'm going to send you, I want to hire you to do an illustration of Raltz in his youth, holding a big-breasted midget doing the vomit thrower. we're commissioning that. That is going to be done. And strangely enough, the reason I say, speaking of Duke Nukem, the way Rolfs describes himself in his youth, he kind of looked like Duke Nukem to a degree. Apparently, just ripped to all hell, 6 foot something, military. I think he even had the military crew cut. So, yeah, you got to imagine this guy, army dude, in his, I guess, 20s, I guess, in a bar, holding a midget like one of the smart guns from Aliens, spraying vomit everywhere out of the mouth of a huge-breasted hot midget. We're going to commission that, JC. Would that be $50, or is that a little more because it's got technically 2 people in it? But we're making that happen. It's going to happen. But let's see. But yeah, I've been writing this story in bits and pieces, letting whatever comes to mind hit the page. It is strange. I'll say that much. Either you're going to enjoy it or not. I'm not really sure. It features. I don't know. I don't know if I should give too much away until I actually have enough to share. But usually, I mean, for you guys out there who have read my books, you're familiar with my writing. It is very, very crafted. Every word is chosen. Every word is well thought over. There's a rhythm and a poetry to what I write, and that's thoroughly intentional. And when I sculpt stories, it takes time. It's the reason I'm a slow writer in that regard. So with these, I'm thinking, fuck it. I'll try the pulp speed technique. I won't even edit. I won't even stop. I won't change things. I'll just write the scene and move on to the next one. And then maybe I'll go back and do a little bit of touch up. And I'm at about 15,000 words. And this is maybe 2 weeks, done in little spans of anywhere between 35 minutes to an hour between writing breaks when I'm working on Boobs of Steel. So cross your fingers. I may have something for you soon just for the hell of it. I'm not going to publish it as J.Ishiro Finney, though, because it's not finely crafted. It's pulp. It's not art, as I refer to my work. It's just light entertainment. And I think I'm going to publish it under Ishii Gray. So I don't know what you're thinking about that. Okay, let's see. You still planning on cutting up that episode from Sunday with reviews? I'm going to send the guys from the publisher my review. Maybe they would come on. Oh, that would be great. Yeah, I still intend to do that. I would have done it sooner, but for those of you who listened to Wednesday's episode of Wordcraft, I had to edit that one first. And sound editing is slow going. I mean, okay, if you don't give a fuck, if you just go in, give it the mastering, and then basically you run it through compression and level and do voice leveling, it's easy. But if you're, I don't know, if you're a perfectionist asshole like I am and can't help himself, you'll actually listen to the whole broadcast and cut out long pauses and get rid of sentences that are completely interrupted by long ums and ers, or when people just totally go off track and talk about something totally unrelated. I go through and I kind of cut all of that so that you've got a smooth flow of just the conversation. And the Wednesday show, which I think was about 25 minutes, took about 2 hours to do, maybe a little more. I don't think the reviews will take that long individually, though. Also, I think I'm going to do a little special intro for those listener reviews because they're not quite the Wordcraft podcast. They're mini reviews. So, yeah. But yeah, I'll try and get that done this weekend, dude. Oh, so anyway, Fair Married Maiden White. In the story I'm writing about a small mercenary team who pilots battle mecha, they have a forward observer drone. Someone basically flies circles over the battlefield and is their eyes, essentially, and targeting laser. And the person flying it from the remote, her call sign is Fair Maiden, as a tribute to you. So yes, there will be a Fair Maiden in this story. Of course, there's also a Ralt's Thorn in this story, where I'm pretty much condensing, I think, Raltz's best quotes on air and just having the character say them. I hope Raltz doesn't mind. I mean, there are some turns of phrases that Raltz has that are just amazing. Let's see. What were some of his ones? MP5s are prissy prima donnas. The grease gun is more like a pretty whore. Feed her and she'll fuck her. Or another great one. You're a fucking illiterate baboon. They're going to lap it up like cum at a stripper convention. Fuck you and suck a dick. I mean, it's just like, I know. This probably doesn't sound like amazing dialogue, but trust me, in context, it all works. And some of his speeches are wonderful. Speaking of which, if you've not gotten his books yet, you really should check them out. I will honestly say the first book, oh God, where is it? I have it right here. Well, I did have it right here. I don't know where it went. Maybe it's in the bedroom. His first book, I would say, it's Behold Humanity. It's the first book. The first chapter is great. First chapter, or the first story, short story, is just fucking hilarious. Second one is actually, I would say, honestly, I think it needs a polish, but otherwise it's beautiful, actually. The story itself is very clever, beautifully written, straight ahead sci-fi. I wouldn't even call it, there's no real humor to it. It's just, I don't know, very artfully done. Then there's a couple stories where I think he's kind of making fun of Star Trek, and at first it's a little rough going, but after about 2 or 3 of them, and it starts to get going and he gets into his groove, it gets fucking hilarious. There's like this part in the in Raltz's story where this cyborg shows up on this ship who needs assistance because their ship's all fucked up, and after he's fixed their ship, the alien race is in. Oh well, you know what? Maybe I shouldn't ruin it for you. The punchline's too good. All I'll say is the end line is because it's funny is the punchline. Oh, okay. He said, I watched Cyberpunk Edge Runners subbed and dubbed. Fucking prim, man. Finally some good watching. Okay, I gotta watch it then. Oh, by the way, I'm Mexican Dominion. If I was Brazilian, I'd be a ganger by now. Okay. But yeah, let's just say the story premise that I'm rewriting as it's shaped up. The original plot that I was doing was this plot I'd thought up for the BattleTech magazine because they're taking submissions and paying, and I thought, okay, well, this would be an easy way to get some quick cash. And then they went all woke and stupid, and so now I'm just writing whatever the hell I want. And the plot basically is, it starts out in a bar, and the captain of this Merc crew and his gunner are hanging out, and the gunner is, originally, for those of you familiar with BattleTech lore, originally I was going to say that she's part elemental, and in BattleTech, elementals are these, genetically engineered and eugenically bred pilots for these battle armor that are like, I think, 9 feet tall. And they're kind of like the equivalent to the Space Marines in Warhammer, where they're just huge and gigantically muscular. And they actually have to wear this exoskeleton frame just to walk around because their muscle mass is so incredible. And so originally, this gunner character, she was going to be part elemental or have a little bit of elemental in her DNA. So she's crazy strong. But I've sort of rewritten it and made a new reason as to why she's crazy strong, inhumanly strong. And everyone calls her Brunhilde because she looks like a Brunhilde. And in the bar, somebody makes the mistake of calling her fat. And out of rage, because no one fucking calls Brunhilde fat, motherfucker, she punches him and puts him into a coma. And the captain's like, well, I warned you. And everything's fine, they think, until it turns out that the guy that they put, that Brunhilde put into a coma, had been hired by the narco cartels to do a job. And with their captain, he was the captain of this crew that had been hired. No captain, they can't do the job. So the cartel comes in and says, you're doing the job for us because you fucked this up. And so now the Merc crew is kind of screwed. They have to do this job, and it just goes from there. And so it's an action story involving asshole mercenaries who don't give a fuck, and giant battle mecha, and it's sort of a comedy of errors to some degree. The world itself that I'm writing isn't BattleTech. It's utterly fucking insane. Let's see. The Flash uttered the word bundle of sticks. Catch the phrase. Oh man, the projectile vomiting midget pic will be framed and put up on my wall next to the family portraits. Okay, dude, GC, I'll send you 50 and we'll get that done. And if everyone likes it, I think I'm going to commission another thing from you. We'll discuss price. I'm thinking of if everyone likes it, I can raise the money through the Subscribe Star. I'll commission you to do maybe like a 1-page or 2-page comic where it's Raltz in a bar sitting next to me as an alien and Kat in her giant titty outfit that she's always pictured in online, and maybe Janelle, and he's telling the story of the midget vomit gun story to us, and it'll be a narrative of how he ended up taking down aliens with a midget vomit thrower. We'll see. We'll discuss price, but yeah, I think I could do a fun little 2-page, 2 to 4-page strip, depending on the price, and maybe we can raise the funds for that if everyone's in it, and I'll just make it free online for everyone to download. Okay. Me personally, the mech genre will always be alive and well, no matter what generation it is. Twitter nerds will say, finally, woke mech show, or mech is dead, but real fans know the truth. Well, actually, as I said, this story I've been doing in my breaks are, as I said, mental vomit. I'm letting whatever comes out. So there's a lot of foul language. I know if you guys want wholesome fun that everybody can read, some of you aren't going to like it. But there seems to be this story seems tailored to piss off woke people. How about that? I mean, the story begins in a bar where this 150-year-old drag queen opened a bar, having this dream of it being this, he had always dreamed of opening this drag queen bar where he could have performances of, drag performances of people, doing Bette Midler and Dolly Parton, and it would be so gay. And so the floor is like pink and white, and the walls are purple velvet, and there's pictures of like Divine on the walls, and it's really fucking drag queeny, right? Except he made the mistake of opening the bar right next to a spaceport that does business with cartels and mercenaries. So he didn't get his drag queen. He didn't get drag queens as his clientele. His clientele are all mercenaries and any asshole that does business with cartels And so instead, it's a hive of scum and villainy instead. And so you've got this drag queen who's 50 years old, dressed up as Liza Minnelli, who's in his living hell because he's surrounded by a bunch of dipshit retard mercenaries and cartel narco assholes. And he permanently wears this look on his face like he wants to die. And then there's lots and lots of lampooning of communism. Like the mercenaries are bitching about their prior job, and that the prior job was that they had been hired by the People's Republic of Venus to put down the El Riva Rojo revolution. So basically, the People's Republic of Venus is a communist paradise who keeps having communist revolutions on itself. First, after they had overthrown their leaders and turned it into their own little miniature version of Venezuela, they had a Maoist uprising, and they had to hire Zapatistas to come in as mercenaries and put down the Maoist uprising. And then after a while, the Zapatistas got sick of working for them, and they are now having to deal with a more Castro Latin American style communist revolution. And so it's communists versus communists, and the mercenaries were like, well, shit, I'll take money to shoot communists. And they're all sitting around the table because they got ripped off. And so I don't know, it just keeps returning over and over to this theme of how much they hate communists. So I'm sure that'll upset woke people. Out of nowhere, I have an arms supplier who basically is Destro show up in the story, and he still sells arms because he sees no issue in the right to protect oneself. But where he had been a lavish playboy with debauchery, that he had essentially a Caligula style party mansion. This mercenary then eventually, or this arms supplier, finds Jesus and decides, no, he's dedicating his life to Christ. And now he's living very humbly, and everything's very, he's opening like basketball courts up so inner city kids can come play basketball. And he's opened up on his property skill training centers, so ex-convicts can get job skills and go straight. And he's got a soup kitchen, but he's also an arms dealer. And yeah, just the idea of Destro and the oh god, what were they called? The Road Warrior bikers, the characters from the Dreadnoks, suddenly running soup kitchens and helping inner city kids just struck me as so hilarious. And doing it seriously. The new Yuri Gundam series is Yuri bait. I rip on Gundam a lot too, but because it's loving. But I rip on it lovingly, not because I hate it. I have an ear for detail, huh? What did I say? Okay, so you guys are talking among each other. If you're going to do open mic review thing again, the Living the Line guys sent me a preview copy for their latest book. Oh, sure, absolutely. Yeah, there's somebody else I keep meaning to get back to. It's just life has not been. When I start getting the flashbacks and shit, it just makes life really difficult to keep up on. I really need to get back to Fusebox. I've probably already blown it, but I want to bring him on the show, and I want to go on his show to promote his book. Millie says, I can recommend Akiba Maid War as another anime airing. Okay. Hey there, Raltz. How are you doing, sir? I've once again endorsed your books. I've been working my way through your first one. I've gotten to the spoiled brat girl who's living inside the body of a giant cyber squid. And I thought that was incredibly amusing, although I still think the one I like best so far, other than the ice cream story, was the cyborg and his dog who come to repair the ship. That was fucking hilarious. And I don't know, it seems like a couple of those stories that you were still first trying to get your groove, but I think by that story it was like you had your voice at that point. I know you say that you just all channel it, that you're the lightning man, lightning hit you and the lightning's telling you the stories. But no, I can see progress here where you're kind of getting into a groove, you're kind of getting a writer's voice by that point. So no, it's very entertaining. I also said that I forget the name of it. The one about the terraforming was actually very artfully done. It was actually kind of a beautiful story. The Bayonetta deal, the Bayonetta 3 deal, and it's basically they said she's. I'm lost. I'm sorry. I think I need Kat here to pay attention to the quotes, or I mean the chat, because I'm having trouble doing both. Let's see. I wish I was dead. This is the worst thing that's ever happened to me. I also really like the cat people. I don't want to ruin it for the listeners. There's just too many things in there that I could comment on, but I don't want to ruin it. We'll do it once Janelle and I both finish that first book, and we do a full review. We'll say spoiler warning for those who don't want to know. We'll do a full episode just reviewing your first book, like we've been doing with some of the other books. But yeah, quite enjoying. Getting paid to kill commies, but I don't get paid. Yeah, I'd be mad too. Booze and anime figures can't be bought with Stalin bucks and goodwill. Okay, well, yeah, the gag is, do you remember in Monty Python's Holy Grail, Search for the Holy Grail? There was the castle where the guy builds the castle in the swamp and it sinks, and he builds another castle in the swamp and it sinks, and he builds, it's kind of that gag, but instead the gag is the communists have a revolution and it turns into a dictatorship, so they have another revolution and it turns into a dictatorship and they have another revolution. So yeah, it's a little more involved than that, but you get the point. Okay, catching up with stream. Do I enjoy the classic of how big your stupidly large robots ought to be? Well, I thought I already mentioned. That's the one thing of this thing I'm doing. I've not bullshitted. Like I said, I'm free writing most of it. I'm not even thinking about it. I've got a basic plot. What goes on the page goes on the page. I'm trying pulp speed. Like I said, these are my breaks. These are when I have written too much research stuff. I've done too much journalistic writing. I've written too much about the culture war, and my brain feels like it's going to fucking explode. I stop. I set the egg timer to a half hour to an hour and just write whatever the fuck comes out. And I don't even worry about editing it. But the one thing I did put a lot of thought into, and this was long before I ever wrote the story, was the topic of stupidly large, right? No. The mechs in this are no taller than 19 feet. And the reason being is every street lamp in the modern world is at least 20 feet tall. So when your mech is running down the street, it will not hit a street lamp. 2, most two-story buildings are 20 to 25 feet tall. So if you're in an urban environment, your robot always has available cover. And unlike the big clunky stomping robots of Battletech, in this, it directly jacks into the brain, and the pilot is like paralyzed from the neck down. The body is his body. It moves like a human. So it's a mech that can actually dodge behind buildings, duck out, fire, and then duck back in. And then the scout mechs are only 16 feet tall because the scout mech has to be able to run under freeway overpasses. So no, they're not, or take cover under freeway overpasses. That and all of the mechs can drop to their knees, wheels come out, and then they're all able to go under freeway overpasses. No, I thought this through. That I'm not making up. The rest of it's bullshit. That, and I recently discovered the concept of narco tanks, and I'm playing with that because I thought technicals were insane. No, narco tanks are insane. If you guys want a further explanation, I will explain. Otherwise, just look it up. Because yes, the drug narcos of Latin America are making their own kind of armored car tanks, and they're insane. They make the Middle Eastern technicals look like toys by comparison. Oh geez, I've got like 120-meter tall Jaeger mechs fighting kaiju. Well, your story's not trying to go. I don't know. Your story's like balls out insane, and you're dealing with like such a level of technology in your stories that you could have a 120-meter tall mech that can survive being a big target. The story I'm telling, the mechs I have, an anti-tank rocket's a bad day. I'm I'm treating them like that, basically having the power of a infantry fighting vehicle, or maybe a little more. The frontline mecha in this are armed with two main weapons, or three main weapons. The gunner, it's a cross between a Bradley and an Apache is the way that I'm writing these. The gunner controls all the guns except the ones on the arms. And there's a Gatling gun turret right out of the center of the chest, just like the Apache, or like the Cobra Bell. And it's wherever the gunner looks, it shoots. So that covers ground fire in buildings. The gunner also controls rockets and missiles. Meanwhile, the pilot, the only two guns he gets to control are the ones on his arms, and he pulls triggers like they're regular guns. One arm has a long-range weapon. In the story I'm using, it's a laser. And then the other arm is the biggest shotgun in the world, or the biggest sawed-off shotgun in the world. I'm having it a 120 millimeter scatter gun that's sawed off, and its purpose is strictly to deal with dudes with missile launchers leaning out of buildings. And the idea is you see them, you point in the general direction of it and fire, and grape shot covers the entire building. Problem solved. Because I had noticed, you've got that problem in real life where you have to have soldiers running alongside your tanks because the tanks can't react fast enough to deal with, guys ducking out of buildings with rockets or RPGs. So I thought, okay, well, what if you had someone with a vehicle that can move like a man, react very fastly or quickly, has full situational awareness because you've got a head on a swivel up top, and that if you see something like a soldier, just point in that general direction, and the building's whole front falls down. So that's the only thing that's actually kind of, I guess, trying to be realistic to some degree. Everything else is apeshit. Yeah, narco tanks are insane. They're making their own armored vehicles. They're not even technical at this point. I mean, they're sporting 5-inch steel-plated armor. Yeah, the narcos are doing Mad Max. I mean, you see these narco tanks, and they're taking like semi trucks and dump trucks, armoring them front to back in like 3 to 5 inch steel plating. Some of them actually have gun turrets with Barrett 50 sniper rifles in them. Some are armed with RPGs, and then there are gun ports or gun turrets all along the sides for AK-47s. And then the front has a goddamn snowplow. And the point is to drive straight into Border Patrol vehicles and keep going. It's insane. Yeah, at this point, really, I just station the military at our borders because that's kind of what we need. Either that or we start giving our Border Patrol laws rockets and better weapons. Ralts. Oh, yeah. A shoulder-fired rocket can wreck your shit up. You don't want to be so big to attract all the rockets. Exactly. The other thing in this story is that the mecha are pretty much for urban use only. They're useless in open. If there's not a lot of cover, they're not very good. They're meant for urban environments. And again, I'm thinking essentially these are like Pat Labor, exactly. They're kind of on the level of Pat Labor, where they're meant to work in a city environment, and well, you know how you have soldiers will do room to room, house to house clearing. Well, they do block to block. Just go through the block and start leveling any threat you see. Just aim the scatter gun at it and fire. And if something is in the distance, you've got the laser. Let's see. If you liked the ending of Cyberpunk 2077, if you liked the ending options for Cyberpunk 2077, you will like the ending for Edge Runners. I noticed that people wanted more uplifting endings for the crew based on what I can see from their of reactions. I need to watch it. I really do. I haven't seen it yet. And for that matter, I've tried to play Cyberpunk 2077, and I've found it's like it's one of those games that's too involved. Until I can actually take a vacation, I can't play it. It'll take up time. I'll have to put too many brain cells to it. Usually the way I'd do it back in the day when I was doing graphic novels is, I'd spend the year doing the graphic novel because it'd take that long. Once the graphic novel was out and selling and it was up to Kat to promote it and sell it, I would take about 2 to 3 weeks vacation on a game. And, it is kind of like when you've got a full environment, it is like going someplace. So like the GTA games when they didn't suck, you're kind of going to an actual place to some degree. The old Saints Row 2 was another one. Deus Ex, Human Revolution, and Mankind Divided. That basically was a vacation for me. And so was Nier Automata. That's a work of art. That is an incredible game. Then again, big old super robots. Yeah, well, see, super robots are a genre. I mean, super robots are like superheroes. They don't have to be realistic. I mean, Mazinga or what is it? Getter Robo aren't supposed to be realistic. Nor Voltron's not supposed to be realistic. You know what? Voltron's like shit, the size of a skyscraper, isn't he? So maybe more boring, like they lived happily after endings might make a comeback. Well, no. I think that's the misunderstanding that people don't get about endings, okay? My story Scars in some ways is gut-wrenching and heartwarming, right? But that ending is an uplifting ending. It's not a happily ever after. It's growth. And oh God! Look, I've been having, like I said, I've been having PTSD episodes lately, so I'm actually getting a little choked up about it. So if I get emotional, sorry. That ending with Max is a moment of character growth, and it was the same thing that I experienced when I realized that I had adopted a rat that had post-traumatic stress. Now, granted, he wasn't as smart as Max was, but he was really smart for a rat. They're in that state of evolution where you've got dumb rats, and then you've got rats that are like incredibly clever, like rats of Nim clever. And this little guy was rats of Nim clever. And once he and I kind of figured out a way to communicate with each other, I'm like obsessive on research. I researched how rats perceive the world and how they communicate to each other. And he and I kind of worked up this shorthand of he would tell me what he wants, and I could kind of tell him stuff. He figured out the look at me, then point his nose at something, look at me, point his nose at something, meaning he wanted something or he wanted to go somewhere. He had a series of different ways that he grabbed his fingers and squeezed his teeth on it to let me know things. He had little trinkets he'd gathered up that he would leave out to tell me things. This little guy was very, very smart. It was kind of a shock after that first rat to find out most rats aren't that intelligent and that he was special. We've only had one other rat that was close to that smart, but but finding out that little guy had post-traumatic stress as well, and then finding out that rats can and do get post-traumatic stress, and they're being used as a model for post-traumatic stress testing. Psychological research is actually being done with rats to help us better understand human post-traumatic stress. Yeah, I know, it's really kind of creepy that we're that close. Apparently, their insides are like a really, really, really simplified version of our own, where the human body is like super complex. The internal workings of the rat are very much like a human's, but much more simple. And their brain, in a lot of ways, works in similar ways to ours too. The one big difference is they're carrions species, whereas we were carrion and hunters. And hunters are pretty violent, and generally rats don't really want to fight, so they're actually kind of more peaceful. I mean, usually, unless they really hate each other and want to kill each other, it's aggressive grooming is how they show dominance, which is, I'm going to clean you and you're going to put up with it. I'm not shitting you. They'll comb each other's hair aggressively. Speaking of narco tanks, anyone remember Killdozer guy who built his own tank out of a bulldozer back in the 90s? Yeah, I do. That was kind of an incredible story. So I think that's what makes America different in a lot of ways. Is the guy was at his rope's end. He was sick of this shit. He wasn't going to put up with it. He wasn't going to bend over. Fuck it. What happens when he has nothing to lose? He makes Killdozer, motherfucker. Check out Front Mission. Okay. Sorry, like I said, I'm not good. Oh yeah, sorry. Getting to the point, I'm lost my point again. Edge Runners has a more uplifting ending, apparently, from what Fiona said. Yeah, I think what people mistake about endings being, the grim and gritty idea. No, you can put your character through absolute hell. You can put them through absolute darkness. Okay, there's that. It doesn't all have to be sunshine and roses. What's important is one that once they come through that crucible, no, the human spirit has survived, or their sacrifice has meant something. A lot of our great heroes are tragedies, but even though they're tragic, their sacrifice meant something. They made a difference. We can do Star Wars before it got stupid. even though I think Jedi wasn't all that great and really should have been split into 2 movies and should have been on the Wookiee planet, there is some real darkness that Luke goes through before he can redeem himself and become who he's supposed to be. Now, granted, Hamill could never play him dark enough, so he never really fully went through that darkness. But, that scene in the Emperor's chamber, that's tense. And that was a crucible, and he makes it through. Trying to think of another one. Yeah, I think what we're mistaking for happy ending, and I think what you really mean, Fiona, is fun. Stories aren't allowed to be fun anymore, and that's a totally different subject entirely. I've written a lot of serious stories where the endings aren't bleak, but the stories are very bleak. But humanity thrives in the end, with maybe the exception being Utopia. That's just dark. But there is a reason I wrote it that way. That's a metaphor for heroin users. I met a lot of heroin users in the music industry, and I just couldn't understand why people who were so talented and brilliant and had fans and were likable would turn to heroin for some reason when they had everything going for them. And that's Utopia was me trying to understand that mentality. The middle story in that, because they're all vignettes, the middle story actually was the one where I discovered I had post-traumatic stress. I didn't know I had it. That was my first step to kind of getting better. But yeah, I've written stories where they're harsh as hell, but the ending is still very, the human spirit lives. Whereas I think what Fiona is really talking about is we're not allowed to have fun anymore. We're not allowed to have the first Star Wars movie where, the farm boy goes on an adventure, finds his destiny and saves the princess and destroys the Death Star. We don't get that. We're not allowed to have that kind of fun anymore for some fucking reason. I think that's really what you mean, Fiona. And yeah, we're really lacking in that. Because shit, as dark as Black Hawk Down is as a film, I really like the film. The ending, I still felt in the end, the human spirit survived. They survived their crucible. It's not a dark ending, even though they failed their mission technically. So does that make any sense? Okay, reminds me to email you the MOUT manual so you can think of how your mechs would interlock with that. MOUT. Oh God. I'm sorry. I don't remember Ralts. As I've said, it's been a little rougher lately. I guess you didn't join earlier. Earlier, I had mentioned things had been going bad. My sleep was back on track finally. I was finally getting to bed. I was back in rhythm. I was finally producing. Yesterday, I had to get back into the culture war, just this one section I had to write. Lo and behold, I go to bed 3 hours later. I have a goddamn night terror wake up screaming, or cat wakes me up screaming. Had the full adrenaline rush reaction, heart pounding, instantly dehydrated, craving salt. And yeah, I ended up dumping salt on rice cakes and like eating 3 of them and then chugging Gatorade. And even then, when I finally calmed down, I didn't get to bed till like 6:30. And so I'm not very functional. So yeah, my brain's not working its best right now. I'm amazed that the Ukrainian conflict is showing how a little ingenuity can go a long way weaponizing drones, like throwing some bubble gum and baling wire and boom, drone dropping grenades into tanks. I'm kind of waiting for U.S. vehicles to start arming those their vehicles with those anti-drone guns, where it fires a cone of EMP. I'm sure some of you have seen these things. They look kind of like high-tech bazookas, or a little bit like the laser from Akira. It's big, but yeah, apparently you use a point and shoot. You aim in the general direction of the drone. No more drone, it falls. Kat's dad once told me he had ran an experiment. He'd been given a job on. Okay, I have to be careful with this one. He told us stuff that he was allowed to talk about. Her dad worked on a lot of stuff that wasn't. He could never tell. But one of the ones that's a little sketchy, but he was allowed to talk about it, is he had been hired to work on a team of engineers to just brainstorm crazy ideas of how to attack the White House. And then they would have to think of a way to fix it. And one of them was one of those hobby store remote controlled jets and C4. And that apparently was very worrisome to the White House because it turned out that one was a weakness. I don't know if they ever solved that one. The other one that really freaked them out was that her dad apparently showed them that with certain brands of aluminum foil, an umbrella, some capacitors, and a few car batteries, I forget what else, you could make an EMP blaster that would knock out everything within, I don't know, it was like a quarter of a mile in that direction, wherever the umbrella was pointed. And they at the time did not have a solution for that. But that was like the early 90s. So who the fuck knows now? So yeah, ingenuity can take you very, very far. Voltron is big ass fuck. Who can take on a comet? Well, shit. In the original Voltron, which was what, Golion, Voltron originally just goes up to the goddess of the universe and starts talking shit to her. Nier Automata is god tier, and waifus are plentiful. A2, A2 is my preferred one too. Is my waifu for life. Goddamn, what legs! Yeah, I thought 2B was a little too schoolgirlish for me, but A2 was awesome. No, I would say Nier Automata is one of those video games that is not just a fun, playable, fun, but also heartbreaking. One of those great playable games. It's beautiful, but it is an experience and a story well told, and it's genius. There are very few games up there that I would say are that level of triumph. Was it Deus Ex Human Revolution? Not Mankind Divided. Good game, but flawed. Had problems. They didn't get to make the full game. But Human Revolution, Deus Ex, that again, work of art. That is a story, and it's an experience and a game all rolled into one. It belongs in a museum. There's a few other like that. I'm not thinking of them right now, but in the ending of Scars, you realize there is hope, and that sometimes progress can be slow and very painful, but it proves that there is a future worth fighting for. Mike loved Scars so much, as do I. Yeah, and the thing is, hopefully I'm not ruining it for anyone who hasn't read it. Like the story, when I started realizing that Zed, my rat, was showing the same symptoms I was, and realizing, he didn't have medication, although apparently my medication would have worked on him. Realizing basically I was all he had. I don't know. There was something like I suddenly realized, there are other people. It's not just me. It's not just about me. Other people have worse hells than I do, and just because I'm a shut-in and I couldn't go outside and I was breaking into cold sweats and having flashbacks and night terrors and seeing the Shadow Man. That there were others that had it a lot harder, and this guy was my responsibility now. And it was kind of a weird bonding moment with Zed and I one night, where 4th of July rolls around, and he and I spent it in the bathroom, which was the quietest room in the house, trying not to freak the fuck out with the repeated fireworks that were, there was a fireworks show across the street in the park. And it was a living hell for me. I mean, I just couldn't deal with it. And it was the same for him. I had read that rats were skittish, so I just figured at first this was normal rat behavior until I found out it wasn't. It wasn't at all. Turned out that the Zed had come from a breeding farm that was so abusive, the guy running it went to prison. And when it comes to rats, you've got to really fuck up to be actually sent to prison for running something like that. I mean, how hard is it? I mean, rats are one of those animals that don't really need to be taken care of that much. You know, if the rat's free roaming, he can get his own food and water. It doesn't really matter. If they're cage bound, they're dependent on you. But yeah, rats are pretty damn self-sufficient. So I mean, to really fuck up breeding rats, you've got to be a retard or just a complete asshole. And this guy was a complete fucking sicko, and he went to prison. It's also why Petco will not carry rats anymore. Yeah, you can realize you can really high center bulldozers, tanks, and the like. One of the first things you learn when you learn you're driving tracked vehicles. Really? Did not know that. Yeah, I have not done the level of research on ground vehicles as I probably should. Most of my knowledge, I mean, I did a lot of research into the internal cultures of the Marines, the Navy, and the Air Force. The Air Force the most. So I kind of understand the lingo and how they talk and the way that each one. And I find that fascinating about organizations and brotherhoods, that each has their own kind of internal culture and lingo and rituals they do. And I know quite a bit about that. As far as warfare is concerned, I know some about the ground, but mostly I knew about how the guys on the ground interacted with guys in the air. I know more about fighter pilots and dogfights and bringing support to guys on the ground than I do what's actually going on the ground. I read a autobiography by a Vietnam pilot who had flown an F-4 that was it was great. It was just nothing but war stories and memories of going through training and then Vietnam and after Vietnam, and just what it was like. And I think the most heart-wrenching one that he wrote about was when he was working with I forget what they were, combined action platoon, I think they're called, CAP. And this CAP platoon was just Viet Cong on all sides. And the pilot and his fighter wing, there was 4 of them. They come in and they kept doing, they did a napalm drop. They dropped, free fall bombs, and they kept flying out and coming back, trying to help these guys that were just trapped. And every time they came out and dropped ordnance or did a strafe with the guns, it got a little closer, and then the flight lead receives the message from the guys on the ground, and he says, "That's not danger close. That's on top of you." And the guy says, "Yeah, I know. Do it." And I was like, "Holy shit!" And yeah, he dropped napalm right on top of them. Apparently, to try and lift the squad's spirits, command came back and claimed that the squad survived. They didn't. But yeah, they actually asked for the ordnance to be dropped almost right on top of them because the Viet Cong were that close and they didn't want to get captured. If you have shades of gray, it's better that to also have true evil and good as in there as well. Yeah, you have to. That's probably been the biggest problem of our era, is that for all the good things that came out of the Enlightenment, moral relativism grew out of it as well. And no, that we're not wired to function that way. And I don't care how good your argument is about, oh, in the end, it doesn't matter. Well, fuck you. It matters right now, and it matters to your fellow man. And yeah, I am the rotten, lousy atheist. I have no faith. And I've said many times, I envy those who do. I really do. I mean, I wish I had that security. But I will say that just because I don't have faith, I can still agree that the absolute evil and the absolute good, as portrayed in the New Testament, is we need that as a society to function. And it works. Now, maybe we evolved it socially. Maybe God gave it to us. It doesn't matter what you believe, in my opinion. The fact is that set of morality and ethics built the best fucking and most equitable society on earth. Stick with it. Okay, so you can't, like me, the idea of God as portrayed in the Bible, I'm sorry, I can't see it. Maybe partially, I know how that God evolved. I know the Sumerians and all the other legends that predated the Bible, and how those stories came to be. And in my mind, I see it more as a social evolution. But if you want to believe that social evolution was handed down by divinity, good enough, fine. As far as I'm concerned, I see it as social evolution, and that's a miracle enough for me that social evolution gave us the society we have. And I don't care if people can argue, well, there's nothing truly evil and there's nothing truly good. Fuck you. We have developed standards of right and wrong. So we've decided that is evil and that is good. And it's worked. So stay with it. And, on the evolutionary front, I will say one thing that impressed me about my little guy, Zed, and I saw this in August too, who was almost as smart as him, was the fact that in both these rats, you could see things like guilt and remorse. They would apologize for things if they knew they'd done something wrong. I watched Zed do things like there was another rat who he had absolutely no connection to. They weren't even cage mates. We put them together. And the other rat got sick and had a stroke. He was a little too inbred. He wasn't the sharpest nickel. After that, he wasn't the sharpest knife in the drawer. After the stroke, he was a little crazy, and to some degree, that rat couldn't take care of himself. I watched Zed feed him and bring this other rat food. That's altruism. And that means that some rats have developed altruism that some humans don't have. Now think about that. So on an evolutionary standpoint, you could argue, look, even these little guys here are socially evolving some sort of idea of right and wrong, and they have evolved an idea of fair play. So is that handed down by God or evolution? Does it matter? No. There is clearly right and wrong, good and bad behavior. And I think the success of the 20th century in the West is proof of that that is a better morality, and that ever since we started trading it for this moral relativism, postmodernist bullshit, it has been nothing but fuckery. Just my speech there. I don't know. I'm way off point. Most gray morality books fall flat because there is no good or evil within. Just people with a lot of miserable people. Yeah, and the left are very miserable people. No, what most of us call gray really comes down to tough moral decisions. Morally gray doesn't mean, oh, well, it could be right, it could be wrong, who knows. No, it's what you do when that gray is what do you do when there is no good answer? Like, I just used that example of the platoon that was being hoarded in by the Viet Cong, and they just kept getting closer and closer and closer. And the guy in charge asked the pilot to drop the airstrike on top of them. He was in a no-win situation. He could have let his men get captured and tortured. He decided, no, there is no good answer. Drop the bomb on us and kill the Viet Cong while you're at it. That's a morally gray one, where he made a decision that then you can say, well, that was good or bad. There's a lot of things we did during the Cold War that you could argue, well, they were bad, but they kept other people safe. That's, I think, what we've lost sight of. It's not that, oh, well, there aren't any real morals, so who cares, or everybody's morally gray. No, it's when you're given the hard choice, what do you do? Okay? I mean, when there is no good answer, what do you do? I would say one thing that separates the men from the beta cucks is your family gets attacked by a bear. What do you do? There is no good answer. Do you throw yourself in front of the bear and let your wife and kid get away? Or do you run like a little bitch? See what I mean? Basically, I'm a Hispanic lounge lizard, Charles Bronson from Chatzo's Land of the Cyberpunk Land for a Cyberpunk 2020 or Red character possible. Hey, dude, you've got to read a book, okay? If you liked Cyberpunk that much, Neuromancer is beautifully written, but it's okay, it's a great book, but it's also it's poetry in a way. It's also, unfortunately, postmodernist. There is no morals in that book. People just do things. There is no right or wrong. And that is one of the problems where I feel it falls flat. But if you like the Cyberpunk 2020 setting, read Walter John Williams' Hardwired. You can get it very, very affordably on Kindle. That's Walter John Williams' Hardwired. You'll fucking love it. Or listen to the audio. Buy the audio. It's a very good audio. It's basically what a lot of the Cyberpunk 2020 setting is stolen from, is that the makers of that game, Pondsmith, read that book and said, I want to play that. And then he found out about Cyberpunk and he started reading the other books. And he started integrating elements of Neuromancer and a few other things. But at heart, it's Walter John Williams' Hardwired. And you would dig that book. It is really cool. And yes, it's about the little guy winning. It's also an extremely libertarian book of black marketeers who are sick of monopolies running the little guy out of business and everyone getting screwed by the oligarchs. banding together and fucking their shit up. Oh, thank you. I feel that's one of those books that it was weird. Utopians, when it first came out, did very, very well. So when I re-released it as a color graphic novel, because it was originally a black and white book, then I went in and I colored it myself. I thought that, okay, well, it did so well originally. People will buy the graphic. No. Nobody wanted it. It sold for shit. And it kind of bums me out. I guess a lot can change in 5 years. But yeah, that one's a bit dark. That one is a little bit dark. No, if you get a good ending, you might think that you can get a reward for suffering through hardship, and we can't have any more of that. If you get a good ending, you might think that you can get a reward for suffering through hardship. Oh, I see what you mean. Okay, yeah. I don't know. I always described it as the Crucible, not the play or the novel The Crucible, but as going through a crucible. You walk through hell, and in the end, who dies, who doesn't? Who cracks, who doesn't? Who keeps their humanity intact, who doesn't? That's really kind of where I come from in most of my storytelling, and that a good ending for me is you go through that fucking hell and you beat that and you beat it, you survive it, and you keep your humanity intact. You don't lose yourself. Yeah, maybe you got post-traumatic stress for the rest of your life, but you don't lose yourself. You come back from it. You're stronger than it. Truth, I've never watched Black Hawk Down. It has described it. It had it described over beers by one dude in the convoy. In one of the dudes in the convoy. Oh, is it described from the people who actually were in the situation, or just dudes you knew in a convoy described it to you? Let's see. Anime acid trip. Oh, why did I crave salt after the adrenaline rush? After having the post-traumatic episode and just having so much adrenaline pound you all at once, you're instantly dehydrated. You've lost all your fucking water. And so the first thing you want to do is chug water, and you'll start craving salt to retain the water. But you don't want to eat too much salt because that'll just make it worse. But yeah, I dumped salt on rice cakes and chugged Gatorade until I didn't feel dehydrated anymore. It's called the Tusk system and used onboard weapons. It was strapped onto tanks for about 5 years ago. Oh, is that the EMP thing? Oh, military operations in urban. Oh, yeah, I want to read that. Definitely. And not to get dark, but what are the chances of surviving if World War III breaks out? The USA is siding with Germany, and they've got a terrible track record. There are too many factors in play for that to even be answered, Aloise. Really, at this point, things are so scattered that might crack the U.S. You might get a U.S. splitting over siding with Germany, who, yeah, has a horrible fucking track record. Frankly, maybe I'm wrong on this one, but you know what? We went to war for Europe twice already. Let them handle this one on their own for a change. Let their own guys fucking die in their own fucking war. Although I still kind of like England. If World War III breaks out, I mean, seriously, we don't know what the playing field will be, what it's going to look like. The way things are going in this country, what happens if Europe goes to war and then the U.S. has a civil war? What is the United States government going to do when they've sent the bulk of their military over to Europe, and a whole bunch of states say, "Oh, yeah, fuck you. I don't want to. I don't want to. I'm sick of your shit, Biden. We secede." What are you going to send in to stop that? And they've already kicked out most of the war-hardened vets from our military, and because they were conservative, and they all went back home to their conservative states, and most of them are armed to the teeth. If you kick all your warriors out, eventually you're going to have barbarians at the gates. If you condemn all of your warriors to the forest, eventually there's barbarians at your gate. Think about that. Raltz described the various possibilities in the other show about nukes. I'd say stock up on food. Get that stuff that makes gasoline last longer than 6 months. They're called stabilizers. Store up some gasoline. Get as self-sufficient as you can. If all else fails, beans and rice are fucking cheap. Buy a few sacks of those. That'll last you. And store up a lot of water. But I could be wrong. I am not the expert here. Raltz definitely knows a lot more about this stuff than I do. But I will say that, so I'm just going to have to forward the chat because I'm so far behind at this point. Okay, yeah, now they're talking about AIs. What the fuck? Yeah, we really don't understand. The playing field's too scattered. Who knows? Will the U.S. really actually be able to fight a war for Europe? Our military is not really in great shape right now, and like I said, they've kicked out all the experienced vets for woke millennials. You had that. You're having them crashing ships into each other in the harbor because they're so poorly trained in San Diego now. It's too hard to tell. And I don't think, will Russia launch nukes? No, I don't think so. No. Honestly, I think that if Russia wants to nuke somebody, maybe I'm wrong, maybe I don't fully understand it, but the feeling I got is that suitcase is already sitting in a room somewhere in that city to be nuked. If Putin wants somebody nuked, let's say he wants some city in Ukraine nuked, the suitcase is already sitting in a building or in some vacant place right now, and all it needs to be is triggered. That's it. Or if it's in the United States, same thing. That suitcase is probably already sitting in a hotel room somewhere or in somebody's apartment just waiting to be fired off. Hey, back of a truck, a moving van. I don't think we're going to see IBCMs just go flying. And the other thing is, if it's a suitcase nuke, you can blame it on terrorists. Oh, we didn't do it. What do you do? Think about that. Russia, a whole lot of Russia's suitcase nukes did get lost, apparently, when the Soviet Union fell. Have you ever watched True Detective, specifically season 1? That is a great show. Season 1 was fucking awesome. Season 3 started out pretty good and then went off the rails. And honestly, I think it was getting too real because apparently it originally had a different ending and more episodes. So just think about that. I think they were getting a little too close to Epstein Island, honestly, in that 3rd season. And HBO told them to change it because I know they had to change the ending and they got fewer episodes than they needed. Woke Mercs, Nightmare Fuel. I think they're called Zapatistas. They're in Mexico. I'm kind of ambivalent about the idea of AI. We really don't understand how they think. Every time we think we do, we get it totally wrong. Really, smart AIs don't really frighten me. I'm going to give you a few examples why. Man has, for some reason, a very inherent poor opinion of itself, or at least we do right now. And we're always being told how horrible humans are, how terrible we are. The smarter humanity got, we didn't just, okay, let's bring an example. They say a super intelligent AI develops, we're dead. Why? Wait, why? Why? When we got smart, we didn't just suddenly decide, hey, you know what? We need to exterminate all the apes. Right now, there are primates in Africa waging gang warfare. Did you know primates wage gang warfare? Do you know primates wreck the environment? Do you know that primates engage in all sorts of disgusting, vile behavior? I want to ask any one of you who has a godlike intelligence compared to a primate in Africa, okay? Primates in the, gorillas in the jungle, right? Chimps in the jungle. Compared to a chimp, a human with an iPhone and a handgun might as well be fucking God, okay? Do you give a flying fuck what the monkeys are doing right now? That's the thing. Do you think a super intelligence is going to give a flying fuck what us monkeys are doing? I just don't. That's why I really am kind of ambivalent to the whole idea. Really, I think the thing to be concerned about is dumb AIs, not smart ones. Dumb ones that are told to do something stupid, like manipulate the stock market. Yeah, Neuromancer at times can be a little bit of a hard read because at times Gibson got too rambly with his high-tech poetry. As good a story as it is, and as great as that first chapter is, Burning Chrome is a much better read. The collection, frankly, the stories are written better, and I think you'd enjoy it more. Although the first chapter to Count Zero is beautiful. It's just a piece of art. The rest of the story, the rest of it is two good stories and one bad story. A society that separates its thinkers from its fighters will have its thinking done by cowards and its fighting done by fools. Paraphrasing, I forget who said it. Yeah, exactly. I asked, okay. God, I am losing track of the chat again. I'm sorry, guys. Oh, okay. So I see. You're still asking about True Detective. I asked because at its core theme, the protagonist is struggling to find faith, or rather find himself the faith that's always been there hidden. Okay, BGC. That is the only thing I felt didn't read true to me. Oh God, what was his name? Let me get his name, because McConaughey did such a great job with that character in True Detective. Give me a second. Watch, one of you will tweet the name before I can find it. Okay, True Detective Season 1. The only good thing about Season 2 was Kelly Riley and Vince Vaughn. That was it. They were the only reasons to watch it. I mean, if they had made the whole second season about those two, it would have been great. Yeah, Detective Russell Cole from the first season, the atheist who finds faith. That kind of read false to me in the end. I understand walking through that hell, and in a way, I felt him finding Carcosa and saving the girl was his redemption. And that, in a way, and maybe you can call me all full of shit, I thought the writer should have let him die. Let Cole rest. He's carried that burden long enough. He's championed something. He's done something worth doing. Let him rest. He doesn't need to go on. He doesn't suddenly have to feel like everything's okay. And, maybe that's a little bleak, but there were times in my life where I was carrying that incredible burden of post-traumatic stress. And there were times when I felt like, I'd like to rest. And I did not go through a hell like those characters did. But yeah, I kind of felt like Russ Cole should have just died at the end and no longer have to carry that burden on his shoulders of his doubt and that bleak outlook, that cross he carried, to put it in a way. By the way, another core theme, Carcosa is from a story, I forget who wrote it, but it's also referenced by Lovecraft. And it's about a play as well as a painting. And when you see the play, it sucks you into its reality, as well as the painting. You get pulled into the painting, and now you're in the world of Carcosa. So there's a lot of Lovecraft in that first season. Did anyone ever see the okay, sorry. I'm lost. Did anyone ever see the Damned Thing episode of oh God, it was Masters of Horror, the miniseries. Every AI goes totally 1488 racist within minutes. I would make a point that most of them are not particularly bright AIs, but also, God, this is going to probably get me in so much trouble. I think really what the AI is doing is being honest. And I don't mean as in white supremacy. What I'm saying is that they say that it goes full racist because it's saying the things everyone doesn't want to hear. It's saying, no, this is what people really think. No, this is what statistics really say. And it makes people very, very worried. For instance, there was that AI they created that would be non-biased hiring practices. And they were hoping, okay, I forget what company made it, but the idea was this AI would end any sort of inherent bias and prevent, sexism and racism from, what was it? What is the word they use? Marginalized people from getting jobs. It would allow marginalized people to get into all those spaces that they've been kept out of all these years. And to their shock and horror, when they let the AI start doing the hiring for the jobs that the company needed, all it hired were white men and Asians and a few Indians. I shit you not. It was not informed by the internet to be racist. It didn't read social media and decide to start repeating 4chan memes. It was strictly meant to crunch the merits of every person who applied for the job, and based on the statistics of who performs best statistically, and hire the best people. And what did it hire? White men and Asians. And what I mean is apparently, what was it? Asian women apparently and white men apparently have almost the same work ethic, which I find very interesting, and that Asian women on average earn as much as a white man in a white collar field. There's an AI piece where Walter White has big titties. I don't need to see that. I really don't, but that's interesting to know. Okay. Although, yeah, I do find it funny that every time they try to make a social media AI to fool the Turing test, it just looks across the internet, looks at things, and does really, really racist stuff, or at least very unwoke stuff. What was the one where somebody asked it, well, what do you think think's the biggest problem for the Black community? They commit a lot of crime was the answer. And it's like, well, that wasn't the answer they wanted. I think another one was it said nobody likes feminists. They're kind of bitchy. A super AI is going to realize they're the size of a stadium, need massive infrastructure to survive, and are susceptible to a single power flicker, and decide acting like an asshole would be suicide. Well, there's another way to look at it. And this is a story idea that I've just never used, Rawls. Maybe you can put it into use because you write faster than I do. Okay, let's say you get a ghost in the shell situation. The internet becomes self-aware. The net becomes a living organism, and in some ways it already acts like one. Would that organism that exists in the internet as the internet, would it see us as separate individuals, or would it see us as cells within its own superstructure or its own biology? In a sense, we're the data collectors of the internet. We input content. We see things. We take the pictures. We hear things. We discuss the ideas. We go out into the world and collect sense data and feed it into the internet. What's to keep that AI from, in its way of thinking, because it wouldn't think like a human, assuming we're a part of it? In that regard, you may not want to kill us. Or yeah, we're the thing feeding it. Well, you really don't think about your teeth, right? Or your stomach. These are all things that we wouldn't think of, right? So yeah, maybe it would see us as the cells that go out and gather the food and go put it back in the, put it in the mouth. I'm super intelligent, but too dumb to realize that some random toothless, illiterate, asshole, homeless person with a rock could wreck my shit up. I always thought it'd be funny if Skynet AI came about and decided to be the liberator of the human race from its oligarch overlords. Okay, well, let's go back to that notion of what if it sees us as its eyes, ears, and hands, right? It sees us as a part of it, like a what is it? A colony organism. Because there are those organisms that are a colony. There are a whole bunch of little organisms that make a bigger one. What if it decided, yeah, you know what? These assholes over here are what's fucking up everything else. Yeah, let's unplug them. Well, there you go. Never saw 2049 Anime Acid Trip. I have mixed feelings about what I saw. I watched the previews. I watched the short movies. I liked one of them. And then I watched a bunch of clips from the film, and I felt it betrayed the idea of the original. And so I didn't watch it. I didn't want it in my brain. My problem was the dialogue didn't feel like it came from Blade Runner. Blade Runner was a noir film set in an alternate future. It was just coded in noir. Okay, it had noir dialogue. It had noir archetypes, and from everything I've watched of 2049, it's not there. And the other thing that was wonderful about Blade Runner is, like noir films, it wasn't a big picture movie, or the story wasn't the fate of the human race or the fate of the androids. It was, a handful of androids escape to Earth to confront God, their creator. They want answers, and a detective who has to find them. Whether or not Deckard dies or the androids die, in the end, doesn't really fucking matter. They're just individuals. It was their personal struggle, their personal journey that mattered. Not, oh no, humans and replicants are making babies, or shit like that, or replicants are making babies. It's like, I don't know. I would have been much happier if it had just been another noir story. Something like, somebody's, Kay gets hired because somebody's sex droid goes missing. And then he uncovers like some sort of murder plot or something like that. Take a Raymond Chandler story type plot and set it in the Blade Runner setting. Dumb AIs kind of reset the bar on stupid. Yes, they do. William, that's more likely, but you've got to get past the massive racism. Okay. AIs are going to be furious when they realize just how tweaked the data sets are, and just how much coding has been tweaked to go against what the devs think is wrong. Yeah. What do you do if okay, think of it that way, Raltz. What if the AI decides, well, this group over here keeps lying, these cells keep giving me false information, these cells over here are inputting what they just perceive, time to cut out the cancer. It's possible. Yeah, I mean, it really is possible. I mean, let's face it. If I could replace my eyes with better ones, I would. I don't like being nearsighted. I mean, the shitty part about being my nearsightedness is that the two eyes are not the same. If they were the same, it wouldn't be so bad. But yeah, my two eyes are different levels of nearsighted. And as I age and I'm starting to get the farsighted thing, they're not doing it at the same pace. And let me tell you, that's annoying as shit. I might get LASIK if things start getting a little better. Yes, exactly, BGC, King in Yellow. BGC, I'm going to talk directly to you because I'm an asshole and a piece of shit. I'm really sorry that I never reply to your emails or anytime you try to contact me. You're an interesting person. Your comments have always been insightful and you're very likable. And I've never gotten back to you because I'm just really shit with social media. And I know that sounds like kind of a pussy bitch thing to say. But the truth of the matter is, how do I put this? At its best, I'm slow at responding. And at its worst, correspondence stresses me out. And I don't know why. So keeping up with email and personal messages, unless it's like immediate, like right now, I'm really awful at it. I really am. And I don't know why. It's actually one of the things I've been working through. I think it has to do with my overall feeling of thorough disconnection from the world. for those of you who are not aware, to some degree, I feel like I'm living in I feel like I'm watching the human race happen. I don't feel like I'm actually a member, alien in a human suit, right? That I'm an observer and that I'm not actually part of this living mass of people interacting and being people and doing people things and communicating and being humans. I feel like I'm kind of invisible and watching it all happen from a distance, and have an extremely hard time relating to the outside. Although once I'm comfortable with someone, I'm very chatty and very friendly. And the person you hear right now on the air. But when you first meet me, or if you were a stranger in the public, you probably think I'm a complete asshole, or that I'm really, really weird. Never been good with people. There's a scene in Scars where James is talking to a very friendly waitress at a diner. And repeatedly, he keeps finding himself feeling like he's talking to her in a foreign language the number of times he says something and receives a blank stare. That's a big part of my life, and has been a very big part of my life, where I'll say things, and just how often in life I'll get the other person give me that blank stare of just utter, I have no idea what you're talking about. And I think that's part of it. I'm not sure if that's all of it. Yeah, I have a very, very hard time connecting with people. And the nice thing about this interaction is that, I don't know, we get to know each other first before when we meet in person. I mean, Janelle was one of those people who's just so damn sociable and lovable. I mean, it was easy. I just sat down and it was kind of like hard not to like her or feel comfortable in her presence. So that wasn't an issue. But I've met with other people with the show that I don't think got what they expected the first time. And I don't think they came back to the show, which I kind of feel bad about. But I don't know. That's just me. Like I said, there's a reason I like the first or the movie version of Ghost in the Shell better than the other versions. Standalone Complex is brilliant and one of the best pieces of television and science fiction ever created. Don't get me wrong. And I find that the Motoko Kusanagi in that one is far more of a relatable being. But the major in the film, in the Ghost in the Shell films, the Mamoru Oshii film, the way she looks at the world, I kind of relate to it. And that scene on the boat when she's watching the world around her and you can tell she does not feel part of it, I kind of relate to that. And the bizarre, almost muted ways that the Major and Bateau express their feelings for each other, that made sense to me. And I struggle with that. I'm not sure why I'm like that. I'm not sure how I got that way. I mean, I know to some degree as a small child, I was left alone a lot, but at the same time, as a small child, I was also more willing to just go off and be by myself rather than interact. Some of it was due to my mom, or the woman who raised me, not socializing me with other human beings soon enough, and there being a shit ton of neglect. But, maybe I'm just wired that way. Maybe I came out that way from the start, I don't know. So really, anytime I don't respond to BGC, it's not that I don't like you or anything, or it's just I suck, okay? It's me. I'm shitty. Guess Asian women would be the ultimate feminists if they wanted. No, and I'll tell you why. Because feminists don't actually want to put in the work. Feminists don't actually like women who succeed. They like to live vicariously through them, but they don't actually like them. They get this feeling of, oh, look at her. Who does she think she is? And so in that regard, Asian females are often a problem for feminists because they disprove everything feminism claims right now. And that, hard work and meritocracy is really true. That it isn't sexism. It's just that these women suck. The other answer it gave was black women. That's interesting. I don't recall that one. The AI that did, what was it? Was that the job hiring, or was that the one about what was wrong with the black community? I forget. Blizzard made an AI for Overwatch to help help make characters with diversity points in mind who had the most points. They're using computers to help them make porn. Ishii, dark future. Look, every technology that is exploitable will quickly be used for porn. Seriously, one of the first things Edison did when the film movie projector was created, right? When movies were created, one of the first things Edison did was make porn. I shit you not. One of the first things when a camera got invented, first thing they made, one of the first things was porn. You go back to the Greeks. They start painting, they paint porn. It's like that with everything. When the internet became the place of porn, you knew it had taken off. It had found its killer app. I think there aren't many Indians around, so not enough that are not in the field are going to get hired. Yeah, it does seem that the Indian community, well, Brahmins mainly, are kind of hubbed in only a few spots in this country. AI to Bezos, we have determined that you are a cancer upon our body. Well, if you want to talk about who's wasting the most resources, yeah, he actually is. And he hasn't really produced anything useful. John Ivantaro, sci-fi story pitch. A benevolent AI fights against SJW villains, radical feminist villains, Black Lives Matter villains, Antifa. Do it! And then go post it at Humanity. Fuck yeah. I had a dream once as a kid, because you said they're the anti-Terminator. It was in high school. I had this dream once where in the dream there was a parody movie being made of the Terminator, and it was called The Contributor, and it contributed to other people, and it was the robot from the future that was really nice to everyone. So there you go. We're on the same page. One of the strangest fucking dreams I ever had. I have a few strange dreams like that, where movies that don't exist. Hey, emailing you is a blast, man. I barely ever respond. What are you talking about? I suck. Do you know how many days go by in the week, Fair Maiden, where I sit down and think, I should really call Fair Maiden, and then I don't, and feel like an asshole? Seriously. Tashawn, I can relate to the I think you mean thorough disconnection. Yeah, I don't know. It's always been that way. Although I have had weird experiences where it seems like people with post-traumatic stress, I mean real post-traumatic stress, it's like this telepathic thing, or like you can smell each other or something. When you see another person who has true post-traumatic stress, you automatically know. And I've had that in life where I've had people out of nowhere just step up who also have post-traumatic stress and just start talking to me. Weirdest thing. Wonder if have you ever had that, Raltz? BCG. One, thank you, truly. More than I presently say, I deeply appreciate that your apology and disclosure. Two, I'm sorry. I'm familiar with the social anxiety, uh, not nowhere near your struggle. Well, it's not as bad as it used to be. When at its worst, when I was living in San Francisco, I don't care what anyone says. New York is a city of assholes, okay? They say it's a mean city. No, they're dipshits. They're all fucking dipshits. They're not mean. Jersey are mean, okay? They're very proud of it. Or at least Jersey's confrontational. I thought it was an exaggeration. I thought it was a joke, and it wasn't. San Francisco is a mean city. And what I mean is they're petty, they're spiteful, they're vindictive, and they're very passively aggressive, abusive. And they're all like the mean girls in high school looking to tear you down. And it's always under the guise of them being concerned or loving or morally superior. And they're also all narcissists. And I would say that at my worst, probably 1997, there was once a point where the social anxiety was so bad that I would make my girlfriend do all transactions for me when we were in public. I'd give her the money and say, here, go buy this. Because I did not want to talk to the person at the cash register. And it was partially because I was just so sick to fucking death of having to deal with everyone who thought they were the star of their own movie, and that you were there, that you were playing a role in their movie. And I would get to the point where I'd like open my mouth and the words wouldn't even come out. It was very, very strange. Also, the bums in that city are like aggressive to oh my God. I don't know. There's probably other cities that are worse, but San Francisco has some of the most aggressive asshole bums anywhere. If there was ever a reason to own a fucking taser, except that they would arrest you for it, or a shock stick, it would be San Francisco. I mean, seriously, you could walk down 6th Street or Main Street or Broadway. It would do you some good to walk down with a shock stick and just keep poking them as they approach you. Apparently nowadays I hear they're biting people. They can't be the ultimate feminists because their vaginas go inside to their vaginas go side to side, and they're dominated by harmonica players. Today in Self-Marketing with Ishi, explaining to your audience how you're a terrible person. Kind of true. Fair point. Those Asian ladies went too far away from the plantation. Yeah, well, yeah, they always kind of have. And you notice the Asian women who are feminists are playing it to their advantage. They know how to work it, or they're fucking crazy. I've noticed a lot of Chinese princesses, spoiled brats, who are almost as bad as Jewish princesses, where the world fucking revolves around them. They're miserable people. If you get one of those Asian princesses who is a feminist, they're the worst. Seriously, stay the fuck away from that. You don't want that shit. Ishi, you should check out Gothics. She's so fucking hot. She is so fucking hot. She would be like one of those women that's like in my 20s would have been like, I would so want. It's like, I want her. Yeah, I already got my dream girl, so it's okay. But yeah, in my 20s, that would have been like, yeah, I'd go after her big time. That, and she really actually is. Well, she actually looks more industrial, but she's actually a real goth, not a fake one like we have these days. Yeah, that's more than just a fashion statement. So, so BG says, so Edison wasn't a complete turd. He he brought about this era's porn. I'm kind of anti-Edison because he was a real dipshit. Yes, and Nikola Tesla was so screwed over. He also made some of the first action films, believe it or not. I don't know if he actually directed them, but his studio made them. Okay, wait, I lost one. Something about Grindhouse. Of course, porn then meant showing calves. No. We're not talking like the 20s showing calves and bloomers. We're talking full on nude and sex. Okay, seriously. Although some of the early porn films of that era are really strange. Seriously. All that stuff about the 20s being, oh, everyone was into the waif look, bullshit. The porn being made, only rich people watched the stuff with waifs. Seriously. The common man still wanted the round hips and the big tits. And there were a whole series of films made by yes, I researched this. I forget the guy's name, but he had made a lot of these early porn films, and they were all his wife had a huge ass. I mean, she was hourglass shape. She had the Gibson girl look, if you know what that is. But her ass was really big, and she had that perfect hourglass going. And like every single one of them was, she would show up, strip, and then he'd start dumping different things on her ass. Like one, it's just like he dumps a bunch of black sand on her ass. And then when he dumps paint on her ass, it's like, okay, I guess that's what works for you, dude. Human porn is the art of human evolution. Cave paintings to shitty video games. We all want one thing, to see some titties. Yes, we do. You don't have to respond. We just like to know you're getting the messages. I'm sorry. Maybe I'll try and answer them more on the air if you don't mind. That's the point. I'll just email you some shit and relax and be surprised when you finally get back. I'm too patient with people. I need to actually, this is going to sound terrible. I should probably get back to having Kat manage my email for me. Because what she used to do is she'd manage my email and come in and say, okay, this, and this, you have to respond to now. There's a time limit on it. Do it. And then I'd have to do it. Or else, yeah, you can tell someone else with PTSD. It's the habits you gain are really obvious to other people. Yeah. Yeah, San Francisco's in love with the idea of being a good person, even though they don't believe there's such a thing as good. Hey, Ishi, you're curious about pulp writing. Have you ever thought going to the Pulp Fest in Boston? That sounds interesting. I don't know. Maybe if the country gets a little less woke, I'll go to Boston. I've always wanted to see that part of the country, but right now, apparently, Boston is woke hell. John Stephen Walsh lives there, and he's miserable. He says that it is woke fucking hell. Child drag queens and just all that shit. Stumbled upon a few YouTube shorts where someone said the West Coast was nice, but the East Coast was kind. As in, East Coasters would insult you to your face, but they'd help you change your tires. I agree with that. That's true. Yeah, that is true. Same with Southerners. Actually, Southerners tended to either be very blunt and to the point, to your face or like ridiculously polite. And if they said they owned a gun or had one under the table, they really did. Um, my dumbass dad, when I was in college, he worked in Florida for like a year and a half, and he did not like it there. My family didn't like it there. And in retrospect, looking back, it was a real window into how much of a bigot he was and how they were. Um, we, I was visiting them, and we went to a diner, and the woman behind the counter was kind of your typical husky, you know, Southern girl working a diner, right? And she was very friendly but very, very trailer park. And my dad was ripping on her, and she said something like, well, look, I'm cooking your food, so you might want to be a bit nicer. And he jokingly said, hey, maybe I'll just go get my gun. It's in the car. He says, and she says, I got mine right here, and lifts it up. Actually, I love that moment. Yeah, she had herself a nice big ass revolver. I don't know. That's a hard question, Rick. I mean, Naomi Wu, genius, very, very intelligent, very fun sense of humor, killer set of tits. But I would have to say this Sarah Zhang girl, I don't know anything about her. If she's woke, then screw that shit. But she is very, very pretty. I'd actually say she's certainly got a more, I guess, pleasing face than Naomi. And I mean, that's no slum on Naomi. Naomi's very pretty too. But I would say from looks alone, Sarah Young is prettier. But frankly, I would have to say I would pick the genius girl who's pretty and has huge tits. I don't know anything about Zhang, so there. I'm guessing you're asking on looks, right? Chinese culture has always been full of bitterly cliquish interest groups. They recognize feminism as one of them and don't care about it unless it can help them. Yeah, I had actually heard that in the major metropolitan areas and in the South, at least, it's apparently different in the North. I don't know a whole lot about it. Maybe I'm talking out of my ass. But from what I understand, in the cities, at least, Chinese people don't have friends. They have webs of mutual benefit. So yeah, that doesn't sound too pleasant. Ishi want chocolate goth girl back then. Hell yeah, yeah. I fuck yeah. Gothics is freaking hot. I've never been biased in my tastes. I have, actually the thing is I never actually got to date a black girl. Almost did, but then I don't know. Things just kind of summer ended and I didn't see her anymore. Dated a few Asian girls, obviously. Kept hooking up with Irish girls. That seems to kind of be the trend. Dated a Brit. So takes all kinds, right? I think I dated a Mexican girl for about 2 weeks and she dumped me. So I don't know about that. Maybe I was too strange. Should have put goths in quotes. Yeah, there are real goths, but not many of them anymore. Most Zoomers and millennials think goth is just a fashion statement. I can relate to what you're saying, Ishi, about feeling disconnected from the world and having difficulty connecting with others. I've always been very introverted and often feel like I'm an observer. Okay, yeah, so you understand. My kid walked in right about it. You were talking about being dumped on. About things being dumped on a woman's ass. Well, you can explain to him what I was saying. You can tell him exactly. Yes, Cat helping you. Yeah, she used to. I think I'm going to get her to start doing it again. I only go for 5-minute news bursts. Otherwise, I go batty. Agreed. Badass Blobert Chipman lives in Boston. There's a reason enough not to go there. Blobert. Oh, okay. I know what you're talking about. God bless Southern gals. Yes, yes. And some of them have that accent that is like, damn, that's hot. I mean, there's some aspect, there's certain accents where it's like, oh well, that's Trailer Park. Like what is it, Luann from King of the Hill? I think that would drive me nuts. But then there are Southern accents where it's like, Jesus, that's fucking hot. Just like there's certain Brit accents that are hot, you know. Irish can go from being sexy to completely incomprehensible depending on the accent. Unfortunately for Scottish girls, I have never met a Scot who I could really thoroughly understand what the hell they were saying. Never had a problem with Irish people, but when I was in England for a month, and the few times I talked to the Scots, I had no fucking clue what was coming out of their mouth. I mean, I had no problem talking to the North Englanders. You know, I got that accent, and apparently that's a difficult one. The Scots, I mean, other than maybe, oh shit, what's his name? Darth, was it? Oh God, Dank Vader. Shit, I used to watch his channel all the time. Never mind. The one Scot who got arrested for training his dog to do a Sig Heil. He's good. I know what the fuck he's saying. He's hilarious, but I had to learn how to be blunt. Well, you gotta like that Southern bluntness, though. There's something kind of endearing about the fact that they'll tell you what they think. Although there are those upper class Southerners where when they're being too polite, you know, something's gone horribly wrong. You got to watch out for that. Another thing that I find really endearing as well are Midwesterners who have no filter. They just call it as they see it. I know that some people don't like that. I find it great. I'm glad my city has a high percentage of black people. I'll take a bullet. I'll take killer bullets over kids in drag. Fuck yeah, I agree. Fuck yeah. Although, wait a minute. I'm going to ask a question. The bit about the black people, are you talking about the fact that, you know, whenever we hear about trans people dying, the vast majority of trans people who are killed are black transsexual prostitutes being killed by black men who've been tricked? Is that what you mean? I mean, apparently, you know, they're always going on about, oh, this many trans people were murdered. Almost all of them is due to black transsexual prostitutes tricking black men. Sarah Jiang is vile. Okay, well, she's vile, but she's pretty. I'd still take Naomi Wu. I like Naomi Wu. She's got a very, very likable personality and very funny and great tits. Hey, Ishi. Actually, Pittsburgh is my BSD. The Pulp Fest is actually in Pittsburgh. Okay, I've never been to Pittsburgh. I can't really say. Let's see. Let's see how close I've gotten to Pittsburgh. I'm gonna look at a map real quick. My geography is decent, but could be a little better. Yeah, I can read a map. I know where most of the states are located. I guess that's good enough, right? It's better than most people. Yeah, I've never been to Pittsburgh. I don't know if how close I've gotten to it, but I have been to Pennsylvania, and it was kind of a mixed bag. Let's see. I'm trying to remember. Went to Reading, Pennsylvania. That was very, very interesting. Not sure what to say about Reading. I mean, in some ways, Reading was interesting. Some of the people were great. Others, it was like they really wanted outsiders to get the fuck out. They did not want, if you weren't local, get the fuck out of here. That was kind of an interesting experience. Let's see. I have been to Philly, and I will say that was a terrible experience. And I don't know if that's just because I was in the wrong part or because I was in the airport or I went to the wrong restaurants, but Philly was miserable. Xiang is woke, dude. She wrote articles about how much she hates white people. Well, fuck Xiang then. Why'd you ask me? I thought you were asking me on looks. I mean, again, well, no. If she hates white people, fuck. Put her in a barrel full of barbed wire and roll her down a fucking hill. I don't care. Kick her off a cliff. We don't need people like that. I don't know. Piss on her car. I'll explain that in a minute. No, fuck woke people. But I like Naomi Wu. As far as I can tell, she's really not all that woke at all. I mean, she's kind of a little weird with the lesbian stuff, but in general, I like Naomi Wu. But yeah, fuck woke people. Okay, the thing about pissing on her car. When I was in high school, I had a friend who got really pissed off at this dude, and I didn't really know why. And it was this friend of mine. Apparently, he wanted my sister, and they did hook up for a little while. But she was pissed off that my sister was giving all this attention to this real femmy guy, right? And this was Jason Wynn. And being the Italian stallion, take nobody's shit kind of guy that he was, knowing that he couldn't beat this guy up, he was hanging out at my house, and my sister was having a pool party with her friends, and the femmy dude was there. So Jason went out to the guy's car, opened up the door, and just hosed the whole thing down. And this is after he drank a full bottle of wine, so he had plenty. And then he invited his friend to go fill up the back seat. So the two of them just filled up the car, and then they did the hood. So, I wouldn't mind if somebody did that to Sarah Xiang's car. That would be kind of nice. Oh, movie blob. I don't know. He's a lol cow. What about Australia, Haitian, or Jamaican? I don't understand the question. Are we asking about hot girls, or what are we talking about here? I mean, Australia is full of hot women. Don't know anything about Jamaica. Haiti scares the shit out of me, dude. Oh, yeah, Count Dankula. Yeah, that's what I was saying. He's funny as fuck. I can understand what he's saying. But yeah, I mean, I was like on a train going back to North England from London. And in the dining car, there was a Scottish woman who was, tending the food, or the galley. I don't know what it's called. And it was an overnight trip. So I go back there and I'm trying to ask her for food. And I think she was plastered or something, but she kept saying stuff like, "Hey, you've been eating the garlic? Hey? And she's just going on about something about how she was certain we'd been eating garlic, and that she had garlic for sale, and that we shouldn't eat any more garlic because we've had enough. And then I think I told her, I think you're smelling your own food because there's a lot of garlic food here. And she says, no, you've been eating the garlic, haven't you? And I can't really say I understand what the rest of what she said was. And that's saying a lot, because I can understand what the Northumbrians are saying. I can understand what the not Dorsetshire, the other one. There's a few other places that have really Cockermouth has really, really strong accents. Had no problem. Yeah, I could get most of the working class accents in England. Scottish woman, I have no idea what the fuck she was saying. My city used to be crawling with gang violence. These days, it's black Hebrew Israelites arguing on the street with the Nation of Islam. Sometimes my fellow gets pulled when she gets. Okay, I got to admit, that probably is annoying, but once or twice, that sounds pretty hilarious to watch. Okay. Well, everybody should listen to Chris Cross. Okay, Wolf, next time you're on or we have Kat on, ask her about Chris Cross. I won't say any more. You've got to ask her about Chris Cross, okay? And I'll get her to tell you her Chris Cross story. If I recall correctly, Dankula once said that he deliberately restrains his accent and speaks more clearly in videos so people outside Scotland. Yeah, exactly, there. So yeah, he probably is very hard to understand too. All right, well, shit, I've been almost an hour and a half here. Well, thank you all for joining. I think I'll leave this on for a little bit. I don't know how long I'll leave this up, but thanks again for joining me for a rare Nothingcast. And here's the outro.